Our life stage presentation covers those who are in the age range of 15 to 19, which is the mid to late adolescence. This first slide is going to go over a brief table of contents for the presentation. We will be discussing relevant developmental theories for this demographic, counselor skills, experiences and artifacts of those in this age range, transition and concerns, and the neurobiology of those who are in their mid to late adolescence. Right, our first topic is developmental theories, and for this section we chose to analyze Erikson's psychosocial stages, specifically stage 5, which covers the adolescence period. This period is characterized by conflict between identity formation and identity confusion. During this stage, an individual weigh out their previous experiences, societal expectations, and their aspirations in establishing values and finding themselves. Clients who are in their mid to late adolescent years may be struggling with figuring out who they are. A few examples of typical identity issues include reconciling newly formed beliefs and attitudes that may not align with how they were raised, struggling with staying true to themselves versus altering their personality to fit in with their peers, and questioning their sexuality. The next section is going to cover counselor skills, which is essentially the skills that a counselor who is working with this age group should possess if they hope to have success with their clients. So a few things to go over for this. First are general characteristics that a counselor should possess, which include being empathetic, genuine, accepting, interested in the client, supportive, and trustworthy. This is going to help amplify the therapeutic bond and may help the client open up. Counselors should also be teachable. This is really important when working with this age group because they are younger than the counselor. It may be hard to recognize that the clients can also teach us, the counselors. Self-disclosure is something to keep in mind. Counselors should recognize that self-disclosure should be used sparingly, and especially working with this age group, a counselor should avoid saying anything along the lines of "when I was your age." It also would be helpful to remove formality, engaging in a therapeutic relationship that is more like a friendship. Next, we talk about identifying toxic situations. A counselor should help their client pinpoint toxic and abusive relationships. Lastly, a counselor should create a safe space. This would be done by showing unconditional positive regard so that the client can openly explore their identity without fear of judgment. Our next section covers experience and artifacts. So this really just gives you an idea of what it's like to be someone who is in their mid to late adolescence during this day and age. So first, I go over behavioral and emotional experiences. These are all covered in the textbook, so just a few things that the authors of the textbook pointed out. First is that adolescent sleep schedules changes after puberty. So clients in this age group would likely be staying up later and sleeping in longer. This is called delayed phase preference. And adolescents typically need 8 to 10 hours of sleep, which is a little bit more than adults. Adolescents also make up a lot of adaptations during this phase of their life, which can lead to moodiness. Changes include cultural expectations, academic demands, changes in friendships, appearance, and more. Another thing to consider is that many adolescents are affected by depression. 1/3 of adolescents are depressed. And the textbook explains that by mid to late adolescence, clinical depression rates reach adult levels. And girls between the ages of 12 and 19 are 3 times as likely as boys to have depression. This next slide covers romantic interest. So during this stage, adolescents may be discovering that they're romantically interested or sexually attracted to others. And also sexual debut happens during this stage, which is when someone has sex for the first time. Sexual debut between the ages of 15 and 19 is considered normal. And engaging in sexual activities is typically driven by either curiosity or pure culture. And a central feature of sexual development in adolescence is the emergence of sexual orientation. So mid to late adolescence is characterized by sexual fluidity, meaning that just because you have a sexual attraction to, let's say, females at one point, that could potentially switch to males and even switch back again. It's really just a time of curiosity and figuring out yourself. So the mid to late adolescence culture, this side kind of goes over the more of like the fun parts or like a day in the life type of a mid to late adolescent. So during this stage of life, teens are likely finding their fashion sense or what clothes make them feel comfortable and confident. Some, but not all, teenagers may start going to high school parties during this age, kind of a little bit of risk-taking behavior. Adolescents spend a lot of time at school or doing homework outside of the classroom, so that plays a big role in their lives. Teenagers have a large interest in social media. I feel like this is a lot more true for teenagers of this time. A lot of teenagers you'll see glued to their phone because they often use it to communicate with their friends or to share what they're doing with friends by posting on social media. Staying connected with friends, kind of what I just said, is really important to this demographic. It's a central key feature of their lives. Their friend groups are probably also likely changing, and they may even be meeting the friends who will stick around to adulthood.
So I will be going over the neurobiological considerations. So during the mid to late adolescence, this is going to be a very dynamic period for brain development, and it is the second largest to infancy for neural changes to occur. During this time, there will be a lot of developmental plasticity, and changes will occur in the brain structure, functions, and connectivity. This all will prepare for the demands and challenges of adolescence. Mid to late adolescents will also be more sensitive to rewards during this time, so looking for instant gratification based off of their behaviors. And during this time, there will be a lot of maturation and development of the prefrontal cortex region, which happens until age 25. And this prefrontal cortex will help with decision making and planning, and that it will significantly grow. So looking at the brain development, there will be a lot of connectivity with the cortical and subcortical regions. These are all age-related and hormone-related, and it will increase the volume and connectivity. So in both the cortical and subcortical regions, there are age-related and hormone-related changes in neural activity and structure, such as increased volume and connectivity. And then the cortical regions start to develop cognitive ability, planning, working memory, impulse control, and decision making. So the cortical regions impact their top-down cognitive abilities, including planning, working memory, impulsivity control, and decision making. And there'll also be significant development with the amygdala, which is puberty related. So puberty is going to happen from late childhood to early adolescence, but changes will still come in the years after regarding hormone and physical changes. So the amygdala will undergo significant development during puberty and gain new connections to other parts of the brain, such as the stratum and hippocampus. So while they're not directly going through puberty during this time, they'll be getting the tail end of puberty and still dealing with some of those hormones. So neurodevelopment and risk-taking. This is a time, mid to late adolescence, where risk-taking is going to be heightened. Risk-taking is strongly associated with reward sensitivity and drive, as well as rise in the dopamine pathways that the subcortical stratum to the prefrontal cortex. Ironically, as executive functions improves, risk taking based on sensation seeking also rises, likely due to these strengthened dopamine pathways from the stratum to the prefrontal cortex regions. So there's also impulsive action that peaks in adolescence, which is a form of risk taking based on insensitivity to risk. So risk taking can also be driven by impulsivity, which includes the tendencies to act out without thinking about the consequences, which is impulsive action, or to choose small immediate rewards over larger delayed rewards, which is impulsive choice. Impulsive action, which is based on insensitivity to risk, is a form of risk taking that peaks during early adolescence and is inversely related to working memory and ability. So as their brain develops, they will still be experiencing some of that risk-taking form through impulsivity that they'll experience in mid-adolescence. So this is going to be increased risk-taking and development of self-control. If properly monitored and cushioned by parents in the community, adolescents can learn from missteps and take advantage of what can be viewed as developmental opportunities. So common transitions and concerns. Mid to late adolescents will be asking a lot of the who am I, how do I see myself, where do I fit in questions. There'll be trends on emergence of self and identity, and there's going to be some conflict there because they're going to see themselves in different ways that may contradict each other. So different actions based off of settings and different people, and they'll view themselves as fragments. So who they are around their friends may be different than who they are around their teachers or their pastors or parents, etc. So their social identity is going to be forefront of this development during this time. There's also secure and supportive relationship development that will give a strong sense of self. Parents can help develop this, but friends are going to be a very important influence as well. Again, there's going to be risk-taking tendencies. They'll be experiencing some of that peak of the risk-taking and developing that self-control. And there may be some substance use in that mid to late adolescence range. So some may experience substance use with marijuana, alcohol, and nicotine. Those are the three popular substances. They may choose to partake in that, and some may not. And then again, they're going to be getting that tail end of puberty, so fluctuating hormones, and they will be experiencing different food intake because of that with all of their hormones that they will be experiencing during this time. And then these are our references.